Thank you so much for supporting and giving to Detroit is Different's A Lot of Studio Cash App crowdfund campaign. We're $2,000 away and you got 10 days to give. I believe we can get there. It's already been such a big success to bring into my neighborhood something that's going to be creative, fun, and for the people, by the people, with the people. Make sure you continue to give to the $ Detroit is Different. $ Detroit is Different. It's the Cash App crowdfund campaign. We're bringing live podcasting, performance, and so much more right in the heart of Detroit's West Side. Thank you so much for giving to the Cash App crowdfund campaign.
All right, welcome. Today we have Khary Frazier of Detroit is Different in the studio today, and my co-host, Miss Gigi. How you doing, Gigi?
Hello, I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm good. I am Sharea Ayers, and I am a guest host for Detroit is Different. So let's get right into it, Mr. Khary. Also, by the way, just shout out to Khary because all the time, anything I do in regards to the culture, or even if it's just talking trash or needing somebody to bounce ideas off of, like, he is my go-to. Love this guy. Love you. Anywho,
yes,
all right.
Love for Sharea as well.
Yes, good times. Good times, good people. All right. So with that, tell us about how Detroit is Different came about.
All right. So in conversations, like most people, I have opinions on everything. I got to take on so much in life. And so many people push me always to be like, well, you need to do your own thing. You need to do your own thing. So two people key in particular, and also rest in peace, my mom would always say this as well, but LaToya Henry and rest in peace, Dolores Bennett as well, were two of the people that always say, you need to get your own thing. You need to get your own thing, because I'll galvanize a conversation depending upon what it's about. And I was already a fan of podcasting. So I said, let me add a podcast to this new form and platform for my hip hop music. And that's how Detroit is Different all started. Initially, I didn't expect it to go what it became, like most times, but it's always been fun. Introducing people to some of the things that I know. And that's why my opinions are so strong, because I meet other cool people and just interesting people. So it's like, how do I introduce the world to these people that I meet that I think have a unique story to share? And that's what this podcast and this forum started off as, and now it's blossomed to so much more.
Okay, so before, I have two questions actually. But let me go back to the actual title of Detroit is Different.
Yeah. Because
that kind of connotes that people lump Detroiters in a box.
Yeah.
So tell me a little bit more as to why you decided that title.
All right. Shout out to another one of my friends, Brandon. At first, I was going to make it Detroit's Different. And then he was like, nah, that's kind of clunky and kind of stupid. And I was like, yeah, thank God. Because it would have been, I don't know how to put an apostrophe in there or whatever. Yeah. But it became Detroit is Different upon his suggestion, because the lumping is the fact that I believe that the Detroit story for a lot of people is like they paint a broad brush, where it's a very cliquish culture in the city of Detroit. Yeah. So you can live in Detroit for like 60 years and not even know that it's like a whole motorcycle club culture connected to Detroit, or that it has such a strong Polish history here, or that like the Pan-African movement exists with tens of thousands of people that go back and forth from Detroit to Africa every year. So that's really what it was. It's the fact that like it's these different movements of people, you know, the house music movement, you know, the bowling league of men and women that are black, like, you know, that are like have been in this for like decades, you know, where you'll just go in a bowling alley like on a Tuesday night and you'll be like, why are all these people in here? You know what I'm saying?
No, I feel you.
It's that feel, you know, the people playing horseshoes over in Rouge Park, like it's so many like little
or the Cowboys.
Yes, very good point. Very good point. Over in Rouge Park too. Like, the Buffalo Soldiers over at Fort Wayne. Like, you're like, who are these? And you're just thinking, if you just sit in your own zone, it's just the people on your block, you know what I'm saying, going to the store in Coney Island here and there. But it's a lot of different, unique things in the midst of a regular city, quote unquote, that happened in the city of Detroit.
That's so true. And you're right, because just from my own exposure, like, I didn't even know about like the rap scene here and just like going to ciphers it was like obscure buildings, right? I'm like, what? Yeah,
that exists.
Or quilters, like I learned about them, and just like you said, it's just so much. But I want to go back to what you were talking about in regards to being encouraged to do your own thing, because since I've known you, you've been doing your own thing. So how long have you been a social entrepreneur?
Now that's a term that I am embracing more. I actually want to work on a workbook for that, like in the fall. And happenstance, like people give you the word and it's like, oh yeah, that is what I am. You know what I'm saying? Like, I guess I do that. So for a long time, I didn't really embrace it the same way because I didn't know what I was doing as much as I knew I wanted to do something different, and different meaning that what made sense to me didn't make sense to other people. So I knew it was just naturally different because like how I interpret stories, or when I hear something, it's like I'm putting my mind or like put two things together. I think a lot different than how other people will put two things together. So with it, even performing music myself, it was like, okay, we have to perform, make the music. Why don't we make our own show? Why don't we do this? Why don't we do that? And I'd be sitting around in a room with my friends like, okay, I just want to rap. I don't want to do a show. And I don't want to produce it. I don't want to release. I just want to sit around and rap, but it never was like that for me. And then it was like, okay, let me package this with a band. That way I can change the feel. And if I bring a band, let me bring in singers. Like I was always leaning towards something more creative. Even when I was a child, like playing with toys, it would be like, G.I. Joe, and then I take a box, and then it's like G.I. Joe has a house, and G.I. Joe has like a job or something. Like what's going on? It's like The Sims or something with playing with toys. But taking things to the next level was a natural for me. And when it came to Detroit, it's different. Bringing it to the next level, the adage of like my best opportunities have come from connecting people to other opportunities. So as I've started to really crystallize that, these new initiatives come about. And these new initiatives bring other people into my creativity. And then we start sharing in creative energy, which brings about like something else. It's like, it's like you cooking something, and now it's not like just me and you making. Like if I make chicken on my own, it's different than me and you coming together to make some chicken. Now we season it better. Then we bring your mom in there, and then we bring your sister in there, and then we bring my dad in there. And now the chicken gets better every step of the way.
Right. It's funny you use chicken. Real
chicken, greens, and I think that's how these recipes, that's why I think certain food is so good, like those home recipes, because people start adding they little, we're going to put some, you got to put right enough Old Bay in there. You know what I'm saying? It's like these weird seasonings, like, what do you use Old Bay for? Like, I don't even know what this stuff tastes like.
Exactly. The first time I had Old Bay wings was maybe this year.
That's what I'm saying.
But like you said, it's a different feel from a different different culture, I'll say. And when I say culture, like one of my friends, he had it at his game night, but he said he got the recipe from somebody who was from Baltimore because they put Old Bay on everything or something. So I don't know, but you're right. But that is interesting though, because not a lot of artists have the duality to be a business person and a creative like entity, and I just find that interesting when you say that, because you're using various parts of your brain with being able to take what you've imagined and what you've created and actually make it applicable, So I just wonder, like, what things can you share with us or with other artists who may have trouble with making their ideas and dreams a reality?
it's a long journey. You know, it's a long journey. Of most of the creative things I've done, I don't know if it's what it is or maybe just where I'm at right now in life and I can look at it more. The most creative thing I think I've done is this garden that I started last year because my dad was like, we got land, we need to grow food. We don't know what's going to happen with COVID-19 and, you know, relying on the supply chain and all logical things.
Right.
But in the garden, I learned a lot about just the sunlight, the watering, you got to let it grow. And even when things mess up, you know, they're still good. Like I can reuse some of the soil. I can reuse some of the leaves that break down. Like, you know, something may not happen on the timetable that I'm thinking, but they all added to where I'm at now. Right. Those interactions with the graphic design I made with somebody 20 years ago are still interactions that help me and lead me to interacting with a client today or another artist. So I would tell any artist, you know, be bold enough to go there. I saw a quote and quotes stick with me sometimes. Sometimes they waver and I make my own quotes when people walk up the steps. Like those are quotes that stick to me a whole lot more. Sometimes it's given or whatever, but one of it was, you know, and I saw Mark Wahlberg by this, but he said, I never had a dream that fit within my budget. And I take that in because money matters. It's one of the first things, you know, what's the budget for this? What's the budget for this? That's a classic question, but to limit ourselves naturally where we're not even going to entertain the creativity of it, where that means that we are no longer enabling what could be. So yeah, maybe I'm not able to build Cedar Point, but I may be able to start with a slide over here. And then that slide grows into something because I'm sure the roots of Cedar Point was not, you know, wasn't the Millennium Force. You know what I'm saying? It was probably like the corkscrew or whatever that real old roller coaster was for like 30 years. And then it's like, all right, now we got the Magnum in 1985. You know what I'm saying? Like you have to have a starting place and be willing to start in that starting place with intention. It may not be everything that was in your head, but start there with that starting place and intention and then grow with capacity. And the things that I don't want to say failed at, but the things that I did not continue at the most or stick to and follow through the most are the ideas, I believe, where it was just massive capacity. It took too much at that point in time for me to pull off. You know, I have to interrelate things, hence bringing people together, bringing resources together. You know, it's a lot if I have to basically drop everything over here and then pick up everything and do over there. Whereas if I'm already outside in my garden. Right. I'm going to be watering the garden. I'm going to be cleaning and paying more attention to this lot. I really got a love for this content creation. For me to invest more in my garden, I got to naturally involve the content creation. So now it's a symbiotic relationship where it can grow simultaneously instead of feeling like, well, I garden from 6 o'clock in the morning to 2 o'clock. And then I turn my gardening mind off. And then at 2:30 to, you know, 10 o'clock at night, I'm a content creator. Like, that always is where I don't flourish the most. I flourish the most when I bring life together and I can grow it together as opposed to, you know, taking on too much at one point in time that I'm trying to keep mutually, you know, separate, mutually exclusive.
That's a valid point. I mean, even doing all the planning and stuff that I do, like I usually compartmentalize everything. Because at any given time, I got 2.5 jobs and working on something else. But, you know. Like,
whereas I try to bring it all together. I'm like, let's gumbo this. Like, how do I get this in here? And, you know, let's throw in some crab. And you got sausage and you got greens. And it's like, what's that pepper? It's going to go in here. And, then, you know, we're going to make a stock and we're going to pull it all together. Like,
nah, mine is definitely a salad. Like, you pull one thing out, add its own unique flavor. Yeah. So kudos to you for that. Yeah. For sure. But anywho, let me go to. So let me ask you this, okay? You were talking about the quotes and how you just make your own quotes up, right? And I just want to know, like, what would G.I. Joe house building Khary.
Hilarious.
Till 30-something-year-old Khary.
Yeah, how old am I? It's like, you be so old, you forget how old you are. It's like, hey.
That's why I said 30-something.
People
I don't want to put your business out here.
I'm 38. I know I'm 38. But it's like, you sometimes forget and people think you lying. Like, damn, how old am I?
Right. But you forget. But so yeah, what would a young Khary tell old Khary? Like, what would that quote be?
Have fun, like most kids. Have fun. Like, when I was a kid, the focus of life was maximizing how much fun I could have. And that even involved others sometimes. We had something, me and my sister and the other kids on the block, we started something based on my parents doing stuff. Like, my parents were a part of BDPA, Black Data Processing Association. And data processing for people that, pre-internet, data processing was something that a lot of people did. And they galvanized this organization and
they were the computers.
Yeah. And computing Excel, things. Right. Yes, exactly. It's like, it was not the same way. So you needed that. And they made it like this real cool thing. So we created something called Black Backyard Club, BYC, right? And like dudes were like 50 cents a month or something. Like, we were doing stuff like that as kids. A joke that me and my sister, like, we were so influenced by our parents. And not even explicitly telling us. But the first business I had, we had a fly swatting business, me and my sister, in this house, in my grandma's house. And we made a flyer when probably things were misspelled and everything with with Crayola crayons. And it was like 25 cents a fly. And our first our first client was Milton Henry, because my grandma knew Milton Henry, and he was like, "I'm gonna give you some money, young man," and like, those big hands. You know how them old dudes like put money like right in the center of your thumb. It was like, what are you doing? And then you fold it up, and it's like, take that, young man. And
you gotta hold it tight.
And then it's like we following him around in the kitchen for like for 30 minutes, which is an eternity in the mind of a child, to try to see if a fly is by this man. You know what I'm saying? But we were always looking to mimic what we thought was cool. And how do we get that to be cool and being creative? Now, my sister's creative vision is way more like, I think I create with the idea of bringing in a whole lot of others and building with others. Whereas I think Dar creates more from a vision of like, I'm going to create it and then present it to people. Like with her animation, like Sky Princess that's on Amazon right now. Watch that. Vivica Fox does voiceover in it and other people and everything. But hers is more like, I'm going to create it and then people will view. Whereas my thing is like, let's bring you in the gumbo. Let's bring you in the creative mix as well. Let's be creative together. So young me would say, have as much fun as you possibly can. And if you have fun, you're in the right direction.
So how has your interaction like with your sibling pretty much shaped who you are? Because I mean, having siblings myself, like, you become a type of person based on the fact that you grew up with these people, like. And
not just my sibling, just my block, Clements, where everything's going to happen this summer. What we're going to do, the podcasting outside and performance. At a young age, I was, and this goes into a podcast I just recently had, I was interacting with so many other kids, because this was a neighborhood full of like families and kids. So like, Kenny Boy, Paradise, Don, Juan, Lily, April, Nino, Renita, Brian, Andre, Big Andre, you know what I'm saying? Lil Brian, Taya. Like, we were interacting with, at least just with this block and up Clements, it may have been like about 60 kids. So, and interacting with all these different people at a young age, nobody gave me the jargon for it, but I had to develop a lot of like interpersonal leadership skills.
Right.
With like a trip, as I used in the lab, like going to the corner store, knowing that, okay, he ain't got no money. So he ain't got no money. He either gonna cry or steal some chips, and we'll never be able to walk in this corner store again. And we don't want to run into that problem. So like, how do I like, if the corner store is like 50 paces away, how do I get everybody to say, yo, let's just get a big bag of this together? Because if we all choose 25 cents bags of chips, we all ain't gonna eat chips. You know, so I'm thinking this at like a young age.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it ain't enough people to play basketball. What sport do we play? How do we figure this out? How do we maximize our fun? By thinking of maximizing fun, it just naturally made me develop empathy, you know, because I'm really thinking for myself. Role. Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, because that's a form of leadership. Mm-hmm. Like, you were trying to make sure everybody could have an experience, could eat, could play, you know. Yeah. So you was kind of like the baby papa.
in a lot of ways, you had to think like that, because if you outside playing hide go seek, and people notice, and the ice cream truck comes, if you don't manage the ice cream truck situation, then a fight gonna break out, and it's gonna ruin the game of hide and seek.
Right.
Because somebody,
or anything.
Somebody gonna order a strawberry shortcake, and then somebody gonna get a popsicle, and everybody else ain't gonna eat, and it's gonna be like, man, forget this game. And then, you know, kids is fighting, and then after a fight, it's like, oh man, hide and seek ain't fun with 3 people.
Right.
And we had 5 people before, but you know, the 2 people that fight obviously went in, and you know.
Yeah, just trying to be a mediator.
Exactly.
Right.
Whereas if I can get the group to come to a consensus on red popsicles, we can keep playing.
Mm-hmm.
You know.
That's real. That's so real.
Right. I'm listening to you talk about like consensus and like collaboration, the gumbo, the chicken, all the seasonings and all this stuff. And it sounds like, you know, growing up here, you've developed, and with Detroit is different, you're developing all this, you know, connectivity, lots of connections. And I guess I'm wondering, like, and this is a question that one of your colleagues, Raina, wanted me to ask as well. What, like, would you say truly connects you to Detroit? You know? Like, would you ever leave? Would you ever move? And like, why or why not? How are you connected?
Okay, I get asked this a lot. And when I was younger, it would be like more thing like, I am Detroit, so I'm here. Like, I mean, in reality, it's kind of branding. It's branding that connects to it, but it also what it means to me and what it represents. I am realistic to know that some of my friends, and some of my friends definitely from childhood, had different experiences and have a different relationship with the city. So I'm honest enough to know that I can romanticize and connect to the city differently than others, but everybody does not have that experience of what that potential is here. Some people feel trapped here. Some people don't want to come back here. Some people, what would I say? Some people have had some very traumatic experiences connected to Detroit. That has not been my Detroit story. My best successes, my most fun, when I go to sleep, I'm thinking like I can drive now at 38 down most freeways, and I can tell you like stories from each exit. Like if I'm driving from the Lodge, like Linwood, really, we can start downtown from the Lodge all the way to where the Lodge ends at Northwestern Highway. I can almost tell you a story about each exit both ways of like, oh man, I remember going to this girl's house. I remember we went to a party over here. Or I remember this was a studio over here. And same thing like 94, 75. Like Detroit has certain landmarks that just tie me to great experiences. So my connection to Detroit is really the people and the experiences that I've shared here that have added to the joys of my life. And the same way that a person that may have been through something traumatic, I've been through something, what's the opposite of trauma? Joyous. I have joyous occasions. Mm-hmm. I don't know if that is the technical, clinical opposite of trauma. As much as it's talked about, nobody talks about the opposite. But all of that is what shapes my Detroit experience. You know, you know, Hart Plaza, it's like, it's a certain feeling I get just walking around Hart Plaza and nothing even needs to be happening because I remember Hart Plaza as a kid going through the water, you know what I'm saying? Like, you know, in swim trunks or, you know, the fireworks or African World Festival or like these different experiences. Whereas, you know, to another person, it's just like, this park ain't as good as, you know, Central Park, where it's like, if I go to New York and I go to Central Park and I've been there, it's like I don't have the experiences there aren't the same, you know.
Yeah.
You know, south side of Chicago where my aunt Ruth was, you know, it was cool, but it wasn't the same. Like, you know, my family in Cincinnati, cool, wasn't the same. Those family reunions, some of those experiences was cool, but wasn't the same. Detroit is so many different experiences. Like even in these different blocks, you know, driving down Dexter. I remember when Dexter looked differently than it is today. Like, I'd be like, oh yeah, that was a McDonald's. You know what I'm saying? Or that was a this, or that was a that. That was where they had the Mortal Kombat 2 arcade game. So we walk up in there and play Mortal Kombat 2. Like, I got these different experiences just connected to the city of Detroit that just triggers like such a feeling of like, yo, this is cool. This is where I want to be. And I'm not going to get that any other place.
That's real. So let me ask you this. Good question too, Gigi. Me too. Come on. So listening to you talk about Detroit, like, and you're an artist, of course. So if there was an album about like you and Detroit's love story, one, what would it call? And then what would it be called, or titled? And then two, tell me what the first 3 tracks would be about.
Okay. And my projects all have like damn near like a gospel meaning. I didn't mean it to be like this. My first 2, Preaching to the Choir and If Detroit Were Heaven. So that song is kind of along those ways. Cause I was introducing people to Detroit, like If Detroit Were Heaven, you know, as people label me as a conscious rapper, which is weird because it's like, what's an unconscious rapper? You know, and I've had debates about that. But like,
I think we know him.
It's see that my love for hip hop is like, no, that's what the brother meant. Sometimes he want to be on lean, but
yeah, but some of them don't even say lyrics.
I know, but you know, I mean,
I digress.
Yeah,
go ahead.
But I introduced people to, you know, If Detroit Were Heaven. When Coleman Young woke me up, welcomed me to the front gates, you know, Irma Henderson would take me to where children play. So that song, I think, was an imaginative look at what Detroit is in my mind of like a Detroit heaven. So I think, you know, I'm been sitting, my last project was 2015. So I'm definitely due up. Usually it's like 7 years. So next year, I'm probably going to release some music. I just don't know how and what. And I want to tell a different story of my experiences for Detroit. I definitely want to tell some of the stories of like just dating in Detroit, you know, like getting a girl's number, like those cool places.
Podcast series there.
I want to tell us stories of, you know, I think cars have a unique relationship with Detroit as you need a car here. Yeah. So some of those like having a car in the city of Detroit, driving different places, you know, car breaking down on you, what that looks like, you know, and taking a bus in the city of Detroit, what that experience is. And finally, I think I want to tell some stories about how my family introduced me to other neighborhoods and other things in Detroit. Because you know how your cousin's house is or your aunt's house. It's like a whole nother world when you're a kid, you know?
I know. I used to think driving to the east side was so long when I was a kid. Like, we had cousins over there on Pilkey and Shaner. Like, where are we at?
Exactly.
You know
like
what I mean?
A whole nother world.
I took a whole nap and we still not there. But no. So your title, would you entitle the album like If Detroit Were Heaven, or what would you call it?
So Preaching to the Choir was 1. If Detroit Were Heaven was 2. I think
I thought that was the name of the tracks.
That was the track and it was track
my bad. I know.
Exactly. Get familiar with the catalog. Spotify me. I'm just you know, rapper energy. Hashtag this, hashtag that, you know. Right. I probably would want to name it. It's like I wanted to like kind of play on that song It's So Fresh. So let's go with It's So Fresh.
It's So Fresh. Okay. That's cool. That's what's up. All right. So with that, I want to explore this whole dating piece because I always think it's fun. Right? Because we talk about Detroit is different and you talk about the uniqueness. I was having this talk with my sister literally Sunday. That was yesterday. Good grief. But
that's how it be when you're getting in your 30s.
I know, right?
Be like, it was loud. When was I?
Right, like a moment ago.
Exactly. I don't know.
Exactly. So we were talking about how we think back in the day, and in our back in the day, of course, is different from others, that the selection in regards to dating or eye candy, as you might say, was different. You know, like we felt like we had more diverse groups of women when we were in our heyday versus like now. And this all came about because we went to my cousin's 30th birthday party, and everybody literally, like, all the men had locks and tight pants on. You know what I mean? And then the women all had the same, like, makeup palette and lashes and waist trainers, you know, and weave. So, and I'm not against weave at all. But, you know, again, just it seemed like a cookie cutter type of situation for the men and the women. So, given that you talk about your unique experiences and even dating in Detroit, how do you think it varies, or how unique has that experience been?
I don't know, because I talked to my cousins in Chicago, and it's some similar. I think so much of it in Detroit, like I say, it's different because it's niche. So I don't know who your cousin is, but just based on like the layout of what you gave, I'm sure like your cousin was the person that went from like this bar to that bar to that bar, and now they at this bar. You know what I'm saying? So like you have different cultures, you know what I'm saying? Like, let's put it like this. If you're the type of person to go to the white party, I would expect your Detroit experience to be in this zone. And if you're the type of person that goes to like, you know, if you're a part of the We Run the City crowd, your Detroit experience may be that, you know what I'm saying? So like, I do think it's depending upon where you're traveling and how you're traveling, it will change some of these looks, and it can seem so the same, but it's just more so because your circle is who your circle is. And then you may meet a person in passing, but just because you meet them in passing don't necessarily mean you like socialize with them. Like socializing
you have
different.
socialized with a lot of different,
and that's where I'm saying
of people.
Yeah. And that's why I would say like there are certain looks that look mimicked, but there are also places where it's like, okay, you don't know what you're going to get in here. Like, classic place for a party.
The mimic looks, that ain't had nothing to do with your dating experience. I wanted to know what has been unique to your experience with dating women in these niches. You know what I mean?
Hilarious.
Because the whole thing is, I don't care what nobody say. We know they look like, and I might be getting old, whatever, but it is what it is.
But I'm telling you, it depends on the field, how I meet her and where I meet her. So, and it's been cool. I think so much of it is really kind of based on where my energy is at the time. You know, what I'm focused on, like if my like where my motivation is, definitely as an entrepreneur, it's been tough of a journey to just establish where I'm at in self. So my presence of mind just all the time. I may not necessarily be as focused, but if I'm focused back to like that kid level, if I'm focused on having fun and sharing an experience, we gonna vibe out damn near wherever we choose to go. But part of that, wherever we choose to go, depends on the woman I meet. It's like if I meet her and I feel like, okay, would she like to go to this conference? You know what I'm saying? Would she like to go to this, you know, Islamic rights conference that I'm gonna go to anyway? We can vibe out. We can talk about it. It was like, okay, that was a cool feel. Did you like that? You know, did you like the falafel, or was it not good? You know what I'm saying? And then if I'm, you know, with somebody that's more into, like, I don't smoke trees, but if they smoke trees, I get invited to like all types of like marijuana events, especially now. It's like, hey, you want to go to this thing over at, you know, Russell Street Bazaar, which is definitely going to be a whole nother culture of Detroit, you know, damn near from floor to floor. You know, we can vibe out on that. It's like, okay, was them good trees? Was they bad trees? How do you even know what's good or what's bad? You know what I'm saying? So I think I've had really great experiences with women in the city of Detroit. You know, love Black women. So, you know, and this is predominantly Black. And then different variances that they've introduced me to different stuff. You know what I'm saying? We're about to go to this boat party, you know, by the Deltas or something. And it's like, okay, I would have never come to this if I weren't invited by you. You know what I'm saying? Right. And it's more so, you know, going beyond just like the casual encounter of, you know, what's surface and going deeper and really, you know, venturing into like, what's the kickback? What's the casual? What's the socialize of this group? You know what I'm saying? And yeah, certain people I just know if I go to their birthday party, I don't want to say I just know, but I have a strong inkling in my mind of what to expect, depending upon just the other makeup of what it is. If you, you know, were you the person driving the car that almost everybody else want to drive, and you know, you got on Cartier, do you keep Cartier lenses? Then I expect when I come to your birthday party, the the women and men that will be there, and also the drinks to ask for at the bar, because you know, it's like, okay, buffs. Let me go to, you know, I know I can ask for this here. And then if you're more into like, you know, craft brew and all that stuff, it's like, okay, this is going to be a different feel. So I know what we going to get out here at this crowd. You know what I'm saying? You're going to ask me to go to a bonfire next. And, you know, and that's cool too, but it's just different, you know?
Right. So, I mean, and that's real, I guess. But like I said, you're right. Everything you said was correct. Like, even though people may look similar, they may have very, very different experiences and backgrounds. And that's
but I do think that a certain... Just naturally, like when I was rapping, like, even though I embraced the differences and being unique, it was different within a certain realm, you know. Right. I never, like, we used to always say, like, you know what happened when the rapper in the polo shirt, that was something we used to say pre Kanye West,
right?
Because it's like when you see the rapper got on stage, like, in 2003, when you saw a rapper on stage with a polo shirt, you'd be like, nah. And then, you know, Jay-Z and Kanye and now rappers is in buttoned ups and polo shirts now. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, oh, okay. You know, time shifted. You know what I'm saying? You know, and I don't know. Yeah. Now, you know, rappers like Sada Baby, you know what I'm saying? Red locks and you know what I'm saying? And his own, in tight pants. Like, you know what I'm saying? That's the feel. That's the feel right now. You know what I'm saying? So, you know, I mean, it is what it is.
Right. And let me just be clear. I'm not opposed to tight pants and locks or waist trainers in same faces in regards to makeup palettes. But just saying, you know, I just felt like in our day, you had like you were gonna get like a plethora of different looks to be.
I don't know. You know? It was like it was the summer of the jersey dress. It was the summer of the leggings. It was the summer of
trends.
It was the summer of I'm gonna cut my tee up real creatively. You know what I'm saying? Like, you know what I'm saying? But part of this is like the cultural. It's the cultural vibe. You know what I'm saying? Box braids was back one time, and now they out like, you know, putting streaks in my hair. And then it's like, okay, the first woman you saw with streaks, oh, that's dope. And then you see woman 30 with streaks, you know, and every one it looks different, you know. And then we guys, so you know what I'm saying? It's like
y'all don't really care for real, right?
Exactly.
It's like, oh,
you like my new hair? It's like, I don't know. I cut my hair. It's like, cut it like half an inch. Like, am I supposed to notice that?
Right. So what do you think is a Detroit trend?
Like I say, I think in this city, it's still blue collar, but we still like style. We like fashion, obviously here.
I mean, Detroit got a name for themselves in America. So what do you think? Like,
so definitely, you know, being a little whatever your version of fashion and stylish is. It is way more Detroit than some other places.
Okay.
You know, even in the high end places like New York and. You know, like a Detroiter, when you go on vacations with most Detroiters, they're bringing way too many clothes. You know what I'm saying? Where, you know, I had to travel enough to know, like, okay, I'm bringing way too many clothes. Because you're thinking, like, all right, I may want to hit them with this, but then I may want to hit them with that. You know, I don't know. Where it's like, no, I'm traveling minimalist. You know what I'm saying? Like, as if the world's looking at me. So I think fashion plays a part of the Detroit feel. Along with fashion, you know, cars play a part of the Detroit feel. And another thing that's like big in Detroit culture, I would say, is cars, clothes. Another part in the Detroit feel that's usual is we're comparable to when I go to other places, like just a style of cool. You know, I'm not saying people aren't cool in other places, because it's a Chicago cool, but like Detroiters, you know, like sometimes you can go up in places and it's like, yeah, this is Detroit like ever. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
You know, you know, the walk, the style, it's like, you know, you had a rooftop, you know, you had a rooftop party and it's like, damn, it's like, these are celebrities in here. And then it's like, so what do you do? And it's like, I'm a bank teller. And it's like, for real? It's like, you gotta be the flyest bank teller ever. And then at the job, they still fly. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's
fly.
Like a Detroit style is that. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, even the way, you know, the Detroit police officer or sanitation worker dresses. Like we all in high school, it's like, you know, the cool janitor. Like it was that one, you know what I'm saying? It's like he just not, you know, tucking in his shirt and everything. Right. It's like he tucked in his shirt back in the day, you know what I'm saying? Got his pager on the hip and you know what I'm saying? He got the belt that's like, it's in fashion, but it's fly enough to know, like, yo, you know what I'm saying? I'm bossing up out here. And it's like, that's the cool janitor dude. You know what I'm saying? Right. He just can't just wear the uniform. You know what I'm saying?
Never.
What you know, even at McDonald's, it's like, you done freaked out the McDonald's outfit. You know what I'm saying? Like, you know, it's like so Detroit. You know what I'm saying? Like,
so
like
Detroit.
When Fresh Prince flipped his
blazer,
the blazer inside out, like, it's like, yeah, that's something that a Detroiter would definitely do.
For sure.
They'd be like, I ain't rocking this burgundy. I'm about to, you know, and that was what was so unique. You were there during this time when the high schools all switched from like when we were in high school, we could, it was free dress.
Whatever we wanted.
But then they switched to uniforms. So at first it was like strict, but the kids like slowly but surely started freaking out the uniforms where it was almost like free dress again.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, it's best as possible. Yeah, for
yeah.
Sure.
So it's like this is like on paper this is within uniform, but like you know this ain't the uniform.
But you know that's real. Like you always got to find that gray area, and that's what I really love about like innovative people in fashion. You know, so you ain't never lied.
I'm gonna accent all of the other stuff, the belt, the sock, like you know my socks. Now I'm gonna flood on purpose because you got to see how I'm popping off with these Gucci socks. You know what I'm saying? Like, yo, you know, you don't even got these. My uncle was out in, uncle knew the people from Gucci directly and he gave them these. And I was like, you know, I'm going to just wear, you know, stun on them this homecoming week, you know, not necessarily Spirit Day, but, you know, this is how I'm rolling, you know, and I don't wear these Cardis because like y'all wear Cardis. I wear Cardis because, you know, this is just the best thing for my vision. You know, it's classic Detroit style, you know.
Classic Detroit. So much so. So
yeah, I mean,
so I want to do an association type of game, right?
Okay.
Like the first thing that comes to your head when I say either a landmark,
okay,
or a store or person, whatever. I just want to know the first thing that comes to your head.
It's like 10,000 pyramid. That's like the big bucks, no whammies. No whammy. Okay.
Okay. So. First thing, like I said, I don't want no long explanation. I just want you, first thing, rap it. Because, you know, when people get thinking about it, they'll second guess.
I'm going to give you the politically correct
answer. Right, exactly.
It's like the African-American struggle. Doesn't allow me to like chili cheese fries.
Exactly. So what's the first thing that comes to your head when you think about Joy Road?
The Murder Mac.
Okay, Murder Mac. First thing to come in your head when you think about the phrase "What up, though"?
Tone.
Tone. Okay. First thing that comes to your head when you think about 8 Mile.
Don't go across it.
What about Motown?
Berry Gordy.
Okay. That's real. That was a good one. I wasn't expecting that. I thought you was going to say somebody else, like my favorite, Stevie Wonder. But anywho. Shane Park.
Shane Park. Summer Jam.
Okay. Hart Plaza.
Oh, African World Festival.
Okay. Henry the Hatter.
Dapper.
Okay. That's real. The Avenue of Fashion.
I think Rufus is Simply Casual.
Automatic.
Yeah.
Okay. Churches next to liquor stores.
Hilarious. All of them.
That's such a staple in the city, isn't it? Ford Motor Company.
Model T plant right there in Highland Park.
Okay, so those are my 10 that I had.
Okay.
But yeah, because I just wanted to know, like, rapid fire, what you think. Because a lot of those, of course, deal with the city and have some significance, especially, like, when you think about careers, people, reputations, like, you know.
Yeah, I mean, they're part of, these landmarks, like we always say. You know, I thought you was going to throw Belle Isle, and it's like Giant Slide. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's the point of reference. So, you know, if you meet a person that went to Belle Isle for the first time, like Gigi, as an adult, like, you don't, you know, but when you're a kid, the Giant Slide is like, it's Cedar Point. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, it's a different affinity already. You know, of going to Belle Isle. Because it's like, we going to Belle Isle. You don't hear that as a child. You hear... I'm about to mess up these sneakers and scrape them with yellow.
I'm about to burn myself because it's so hot.
See, you ain't know how to ride the slide. Right? You didn't know how to ride the slide. You was that kid that was too afraid to go down by yourself.
No, I went down the slide. But even with them little sacks, those potato sacks, like it didn't matter if the slide was hot because you know you was going to Belle Isle when it was hot. It's not shaded. You're going to get burned. Like, that's it. Good times. But yes. But speaking of Belle Isle, have you been there lately? Like, it's changed
dramatically. This is a city resource was transitioned to a state resource. The state technically manages Belle Isle now. It's a state park, no longer a city park, which my godmother definitely will have a lot to say about this, Joanne Watson. But I think it still should be a city asset. I believe the city ran it very well. But that's another one of those things, depending upon how you look at Belle Isle. Some people think Belle Isle and they think, oh, people dancing on top of cars at the middle of the night. Some people think the Giant Slide. Some people think the beach, you know, which that's an asset that, like, I don't even really consider Belle Isle Beach. Though people go and it's fun. They got a water slide and all that stuff. Like, but I just, you know, I don't. It's like, for real. And some people fish for real on Belle Isle. Like, it is in the culture of Detroit. It's fishing groups that, like, can tell you, okay, at this time of the year you can get this, and at that time of the year you can get that, and you got to get off this pier because the stream is coming this way. So, like, I think the asset was great. I think it is something that is something that should be brought back to the city. I wish the state would share. Probably give the money that's already owed from revenue sharing to the city, so the city can run Belle Isle for itself, because that's it's so much you can learn in park management. As I've had these discussions with the people that I know, and then there was a zoo there. It's the aquarium there, the planetarium there. These are things that should be taught and passed down to our people, to Detroiters, for generations, so that they can learn. You know, get the amphitheater going back again. This is that type of asset where people can learn, you know, if you're interested in zoology and stuff like that. Like, I mean, you start at that aquarium, which has some rare fish for anywhere. Right. You can learn some skill sets and then go from there to God knows where, you know, travel the world as, you know, in that world of zoology and stuff like that. And, you know, amphitheater, the other assets there, the planetarium, is this urban gardening movement is starting again. I think that could be an asset used to galvanize other things than, like, I'm growing food, but flowers are just as important as flowers can be deterrents for certain insects.
Right. Correct. Look at you learning stuff from your garden, okay? Come on, lavender. It's like,
exactly. It's like
peppermint.
Turmeric. I'm trying to grow some elderberry now to build up that immune system.
Right. So before I have to depart, I'm going to ask you this question. Given your unconditional positive regard for the city and just your love for Detroit, if you had to have something erected in your honor, what would it be and why?
Well, first, in classic Khary statement, I would want it erected in other people's honor. Probably like my mom, grandma, some of the people over here that was on the block, like the OGs and stuff. I would want, like, I've been paying more attention to parks and trees in people's honor, but I want, like, a woodcrafted statue of what I used to love the most was, because of those southern roots, they would get different vegetables and fruits at certain times of the year, wherein they would sit on the porch and talk to each other like as neighbors, like my grandma Cook, Mr. Mel next door. And then they just share. It's like, okay, I got these Georgia pecans. I got these, you know, watermelon from Alabama. I got, you know, these peaches from from the bottom part of Georgia and all it. Like, that was such an interesting exchange of looking at, to me still, it's like, these are some country black folks. But in a city, embracing their roots, like almost like it was them playing with their G.I. Joe. So I think like a carving that could display those relationships of those elders that were on my block would be very interesting, and something that would stand as like, you know, unique to me. The same way like they liked you ever had, my aunt's big on these, like the black figurines of like the church people. To me it would be like the black figurines of, this is like a bad stereotype, of porch people. It'd be like, oh, porch monkeys. It's like I would want some black figurines of porch of the back and forth like relationship in my neighborhood of the elders. You know.
Yep, porch politics.
Yes, I like, that's a better term for it.
Yes, well, that I like what you're saying for sure. And along with the social entrepreneur workshop, or workbook rather, maybe you need to do like a hip hop gardening type of situation. You know, I think that would be like a really cool show that we could sell to a network.
Like, I'd be like, brother, these the hoes you need to be picking up. I'm just
right. Right. Well, I don't know about the hoes, because then I'd be like hedonism and gardening. Like, I don't know. Hedonism and gardening. Right. But yeah, I guess so. Yeah, the hoes with the actual tool. Good times. Right. Play on words.
Tool, right. The gardening tool, brother. But yeah, I don't know where that's gonna mesh, but I'm sure it will mesh. Cause yeah, for most people, growing any plant, it's unique. I would strongly urge of people to try it or volunteer, because just that process it's natural, like what Mufasa said in The Lion King. Like, the circle of life obviously just shows you the patience of so many things, like water, sunlight, and it's no fast forward. Any tricks of trade that you're looking to fast forward, well, in the long run, I don't want to say harm, but it could kill a whole crop by bringing in like the wrong type of nutrients or doing things like that. If you stick to the natural system and let it grow and let it progress, you know, the plants will adjust to the environment naturally. Right. And that's what we always want to do. And in life, it's been like that too. For me, like, I've always wanted to sometimes find the fast forward button. The best thing is to play, you know. It's no stop, it's no pause, no fast forward, no rewind. If you let it play out, the best opportunities start presenting themselves.
That's real. And I just have to say, like, when we were laughing about your hip hop and gardening, I could just imagine you with some buffs and like gardening tools. Like, I got a Gucci belt,
a Gucci belt,
right?
And some red locks. And like, I'm about to get on that garden. He out here getting money.
He getting it.
The getting money garden. Like,
right. Like, let's do it. Right. Got all the green. Like, we can play off of all of that.
Exactly. It's like, what are you doing over here?
Good time.
What in the world is this? It'd be like a hippie group that like, this is not what gardening is. This is not what gardening is supposed to represent.
Right.
You have demeaned connecting with the earth.
Right. So it's so good. But all right. So in closing, for real, because I got to get to this barbecue. What do you want people to know about Detroit is different?
I want people to know that Detroit is different. It's art in motion. I guess like my role models in life of what I view as success. Definitely my father as a CPA. And I've seen, and the reason I look to my father and my grandfather so much, but especially my father, because I grew up with him. I saw what the journey in entrepreneurship is, what that success takes. Grandfather, and just knowing more of his story and seeing what I did see, same thing. But like Tyree Garton and Malik Yakini are two people I look to and I say, okay, these are variations of success, especially with Malik Yakini, because I've seen the journeys of Baba Malik from Black Star Bookstore in Sorma, when he was a teacher at Aisha Shule, the Trade Food Security Network. Like, it takes time. So I want people to know that this is art in motion. And as that time creates, maybe, let's join, let's create together. But what we create, let's be intentional in the process as opposed to being intentional for some type of outcome. Let's not necessarily focus on, we need to get you a $500,000 grant, or we need to get you, 50,000 followers or whatever. Let's just stay intentional in purpose. And those successes and opportunities will come abundantly, as opposed to if we stay so focused on what the outcome is, we're limiting what we see as success. And when we limit what we see as success, it's only going to naturally lead us to disappointment or failure.
True. Where can people tune into Detroit Is Different?
All the places that you're looking at us now on, and Facebook, Spotify, if you just happen to know me, that way, YouTube, all the different places, the different platforms. The website, DetroitisDifferent.com, DetroitisDifferent.net. Like, if you can find, it's Googleable. And then if it's not Googleable, come on out to Alada Studio, 1634 Clement Street, Detroit, Michigan, 48238. It's 2 doors away from the incubator space and next door to where I live. So it's easy to find.
All right. Thank you, Khary. And thank you, Gigi. I am Sharea Ayers signing off.
Thank you.
Okay. Hello.
Yes.
All right. I'm Gigi. We're here in the Detroit Is Different incubator space. And who am I speaking with right now?
You're speaking to Khary. This is like part 2 of the interview. It's like this is like the round robin, the run of it. So
the behind the scenes a little bit.
Exactly. And Gigi is interning, but representing for Alada Studio in Detroit Is Different this summer. But we got to get some content to the people, so that's what we doing.
Right. Okay.
Yep.
Yeah. So you've got this new Alada Studio coming up, an event series. It's June 10th, right? You're going to start on Thursdays?
Yes. Every Thursday, June 10th through August 26th. We got 2 rain delay days in there because, rain happens. And we not doing nothing in the rain. You know what I'm saying? That's a whole different feel. So every Thursday from 5 to 9, 1634 Clements. Come on out. You can enjoy some podcasting, amp live performance. It will be something unique, something interesting.
Okay, yes. I'm excited. And we're going to get into that a little bit more about the theoretical sort of what's behind Alada Studio. But for now, and listening to the interviews that you do with Detroit Is Different and really, talking to the people that you talk to, you always ask them at the beginning, what is your Detroit story? And I guess I kind of want to turn the tables a little bit and ask you about your Detroit story. Like, how you always ask, how did your family get here? How did you get here? I know right now we're speaking in this space. It used to be your grandmother's house, right?
Yep.
So talk to me a little bit about that.
All right. So, we're in my grandma's bedroom. So this home was like at the point in time when it was purchased. So my maternal grandmother, Mary Lee Brown, was married to John Brown. John Brown was a World War II veteran. As a World War II veteran, he was one of the few black GIs that actually got the GI Bill to purchase a home. But he came home as a wounded veteran. He lost a leg in the war. And just a savvy individual. He was one of the few people that worked his way to get the GI Bill. A lot of black soldiers did not get the GI Bill. And at the time, this street was not a black neighborhood. When they moved over here, they were I believe, 3rd black family on the street. And within about 4 or 5 years, this all Jewish community transitioned to a black community. So living on the west side or in this neighborhood was definitely something out of the ordinary for a black family at the time. But it ushered in so many more. So my Detroit story starts there. When I say they, meaning my maternal side of the family. So my mom was born in Detroit, and moved here after my grandfather came back. And with my grandfather and the family, my aunt, both my aunts were there. My mother was the youngest in this home. So much of the history goes and runs deep. Even getting this home was unique and classic grandfather story. He had the money for the down payment because he worked out a deal where another soldier he knew could rent out the basement. So he basically worked a deal where his rent was a man paying rent on a house he didn't even own yet was the reason my family was able to buy this home. And in my granddad's own interesting, unique way, he made something possible that most people would look at as limited because they needed their own space for the 4 children and the husband and wife.
Wow. Okay. So that's,
And my dad made his way here from Cincinnati with the job with General Motors. That's what brought my dad here.
Really? Okay.
Yep. And my dad was white collar guy, working in computer programming and accounting. And it was just a lot of opportunities at that time in Detroit in the 70s. So, he was a part of that. Almost everything was gold that General Motors was doing in the 50s, 60s, and 70s.
Wow. Okay. So that's how your parents got here.
Yep.
And then did you grow up on this block?
Yeah, I grew up, we moved around for a while, but it was big just in the world of childcare where my mom was determined on finding a home near where her mother was. When I was younger, we lived in a lot of places, but I was so young, I couldn't, you can't remember. You're a kid. But the home that I stay in is the home I remember and recognize as my childhood home. And I stayed there till I was 13 when my family moved to Russell Woods, which is actually a community not that far from here in the same zip code, but just whole different layout, whole different feel, whole different culture in Russell Woods than over here at, in Hope Village.
Yeah. Okay. Wow.
Yep.
Okay. So, and I guess you speak about, the block in which I say you grew up as this place that really oriented some of your social skills.
Definitely.
And gave you a grounding foundation of just what it means to be connecting with people and to be creating with people, right?
Yeah.
And go ahead.
Yeah. The block as a kid, I'm a child, but it had a whole lot to do with relationships, friendships, socializing, fun, because that was always the focus as a child. It was how to maximize fun. So in maximizing fun, I had a goal that incorporated, bringing in other kids, but also recognizing and exercising the empathies of knowing the understandings of, my friends' living situations are completely different than mine. And in my adolescent mind, you don't know all the specifics, but I did know some of those realities. You hear it, as I got older, some of the picture gets painted a little bit more, but you just knew something was different. Something's going on there that's different, but we still as children can play. So how do we get back to that?
Interesting. I got you.
Yep.
And was everyone that you were living around going to the same schools, or what was school like for you growing up?
Okay, so
education in general, yeah.
Some of the kids on the block definitely went to the neighborhood school. Some didn't. I was a part of the some that didn't. I went to an African-centered school for starting at Nataki Taliba, and then eventually we transitioned over to Aisha Shule. But I also went to Spain Elementary for a while for, I want to say, pre-K and some kindergarten. My Aunt Dolores was an administrator at Spain. In Spain, that was where I started. So I assume that must have been preschool or pre-K because that was the break off. I remember that day Cause your mom drops you off and I'm crying as a kid, but my Aunt Dolores walks in, so then I stop crying and he's like, your mom gonna come back? And it's like, okay, cool. But I'm a kid, so you don't know what's gonna happen. You just know the lady you with all the time leave you at a place and it's like, what is going on here?
Right,
yeah.
Exactly.
And it seems like everybody else know what it is, but I don't know what's going on.
I get you.
Yeah.
Okay. And then I guess I'm going to fast forward a little bit into, your experience in your career, I guess, as a hip hop artist and making music, right?
Yep.
How did that begin?
Always, so much of this always deals with like what happens as a child. So definitely the adolescent mind as an adult still impacts, I believe, strongly. I think who we are as children plays a big role in how we identify and what we pursue as adults. So as a child, I felt I had more to say, but always was told like, you got to be quiet. A kid's place is a kid's place. Whereas during this time, I was born in 82. I'm looking at a whole movement of what in the mind of a kid, young black men being able to say what they want, do what they want, wear what they want, like not conform to anything. That's what hip hop represented to me. That was the alluring aspect of like seeing, when I'm a kid, Run DMC, seeing LL Cool J, Eazy-E, Chuck D, like, it's like, man, they're doing what they want to do. They don't get told to, clean up something or, you got to go to bed at a certain time. I don't think Snoop is dealing with this. So that was the alluring element in the start. And then the creativity of putting the words together. And it's like, that's what I want to do because it's individualism in my mind at the time that I saw in hip hop, which some of it is true, but also some of it now that I've gotten older, I think it was somewhat romanticized, but in it tied to my creativity.
And I guess I hear. Let me back up a little bit. At what age do you think that you started to embrace that? This alluring like individualism. When did you start making your own stuff?
So like my first rhyme, I was a kid, like me and my sister, like real young, maybe like 5 or something. But when I really started doing more, it was in middle school. So 7th grade, I remember my mom had one of the, as they say, the journalist tape recorders. So I recorded one side of a 30-minute cassette tape, and then my friend Kamar Robinson recorded on the other side of it. And then we gave it to some of our other friends. And Lord knows, I found that tape like maybe 5 years later, and I'm like, it sounds like a bunch of little kids, and I don't know how you listen to this music with no beat. Or like if we had a beat, we would have to like find our parents' boombox and then play off of like single cassettes. So like you had the instrumental of like, the Crisscross song. So I'm rapping with Crisscross off the speaker, like just very poor quality, but we were rapping, it was our tape at the time, and then, find a index card, and then shape the index card, cut it so it's like the can fit a cassette deck for a cover and draw with markers the cover. So that was what happened.
Okay. Do you remember any of your first rhymes? Like, could you spit some for us?
I don't really remember a lot of them. I know it wasn't the strongest stuff. Like I don't think I got decent at rap. Like if I started in 7th grade, and that's, I don't know how old you are in 7th grade, but like let's say like you're 12 or something. I don't think I got good at rapping probably till I was like about 20.
Okay.
But I liked it. I liked it. I liked the music. I like going to the studio. It took a while to learn how to rap on beat, to the bar structure, finding those pockets, what it was. Like it took some time for me to get good at it. And even in getting good at it, let me define that. It took a while for me to find my voice and know how to use my voice on a record where what's in my head comes out and it connects and it makes sense.
Right.
But I've always been very creative. So sometimes so much stuff is going on in my head for it to display and get to and connects to other people. That's always been a challenge. Why I talk so much, hence why it's good to podcast. And this has been something since I was a kid. Like we could do this and we could do that. Like, and other people are looking at me like, what are you talking about? So doing it in the form of rap took a while to connect. By around the time I was 20, I started figuring out song structure. And as I started figuring out song structure, now I'm like, okay, I know where to go. I know how to pick beats that I like. So maybe around 26, 27, around the time my first release, Preaching to the Choir, I'm really getting effective at it.
Right.
You know, knowing how to interact with an audience, knowing how to use inflection on a song. Cause like even it's a way to, if a rapper's in rhythm with a beat, the voice itself becomes a percussive instrument. So whether a person knows what I'm saying or doesn't know what I'm saying, you're going to kind of bob your head because the pattern of rap already is in the pocket of the beat, accenting what the beat is doing anyway. You know, hence it's certain rappers that rap a song and you only hear it one time, but it's like, man, I've memorized. How did I memorize something that I've only heard one time?
Right.
Because the rapper knows the percussive nature of it.
Right.
Now, would they explain it like this? Would they put it in pattern? No, they just say, I know what I'm doing. Because you do it so long that you get better at it.
Right. And do you remember any like performances from this time? Like things that stick out to you as like, ooh, that sounds good. Like, that
yeah, I can tell you my first performance was at when the Blind Pig used to have a offshoot version down here in the city of Detroit, or like the Detroit area in East Point. Mark Kemp from Silent Records, shout out Mark, booked me on it just on the fact that he knew who I was. And what's so funny, one of the people I knew was in there, Jocelyn Benson. It was such a horrible show. I didn't know how to connect. I didn't know how to, first off, I didn't know how to hold a microphone as a rapper. I didn't know how to look to the audience. I thought it would be pretty easy. It was extremely difficult. This is a time where the Red Wings were in the championship, so half the bar was like really just focused on the Red Wings. And, you know, Jocelyn knew me, but it was like, I don't really want to know you now. It's like, damn, you know what I'm saying?
No, okay.
Shout out Jocelyn. You know, Jocelyn is real creative and dynamic. But I do remember that first show. And then I remember some of the other shows too. Like I got better. Mark kept giving me opportunities. And I was like, okay. My friend Khan, Mayo Thomas, Khan really showed me a whole lot about performance. And from Khan, I started meeting other people like Proof. I learned a lot from him. Mo Dirty, Super MC, J Kid, like really that whole group of the Wolfpack and a lot of those Iron Fist rappers taught me a lot just in looking and seeing how the audience would respond to what they would do. Finale, Invincible, like, you know, you learn different things as the audience picks up different trends. You know, Big Herc from Rock Bottom, like, you know, seeing these different performers, you learn like, oh, okay, this is how audiences respond to certain things. And a lot of that confidence now, when people say, wow, you speak, you know, I'll give, you know, give a speech in school or give a speech at like some different event, and they're like, man, you're effective. And I'm thinking to myself, like, I'm just picking up, you know, this is the mix of stuff that I learned from Big Herc. You know what I'm saying? Like, if you little did you know, this is like what I learned from MC Breed that I'm putting into this discussion on, I don't know, anti-racism or something or whatever people may ask me to speak on.
No, I love that. And let's talk about it, because I feel like there is definitely a relationship between these things that you're learning in this part of your life, like as a hip hop artist, and then also like the podcasting and like the speaking that you do now. Like even I'm hearing you like do these interviews, and I'm like, oh my God, I hear that he has that background.
Thank you.
Because you have this like improvisational way of being like, okay, let's like get right into it. In the flow of things, it's very much like you're an MC of the podcast. What do you have to say?
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I think even with freestyling, Proof was one of those people, but like a lot of those, you know, freestyling was different then than what it is now. And I'm also not one of those older, bitter rappers that's like, oh, all the stuff today is different and it's whack. Or, like, I think some of the hip hop artists today are talented enough to make music for me, but I don't know if it's a good business decision. Like, if I embrace your record and say, wow, that's phenomenal, I don't know how many people, I don't know if the audience itself is connecting to that. B Scarab was in one of my recent interviews, and he was saying like, yeah, it's a lifestyle music. And I was like, man, that's a good way of looking at it. And the lifestyle that I connected to hip hop to was a different lifestyle than what people connect hip hop to today, you know? the lifestyle I connected to was like strong MCing, really freestyle. Like it was almost to a point where, you know, it's like, yeah, you can listen and be like, nah, he ain't freestyling. Like, you know, it would be almost like a badge against you. Like if your freestyle really wasn't a freestyle.
Right.
If you used what we call a written, like if it was a written rhyme and then you introduced it into a freestyle cipher, people would look at you and say, that's whack. Like almost like you're cheating.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Like I'm from that era. Whereas now I think to freestyle without a written rhyme, you're looked at like, what are you doing?
Right.
You know, to rap in rhythmic pattern, it's like, what are you doing? Like, why are you being so extra? You know, like, so like things have changed because the lifestyle and what it's connected to and battle rap culture is even different. Like, but what I learned and how I learned it, I loved it. I still love a lot of that era. You know, that's why I play a lot of music from that era still. And I expand out. But, you know, hip hop is still my soundtrack. It's my favorite art form. I think it's beautiful, but it also has, you know, depending upon how you look at it, I'm honest enough to know that it's led to a lot of tough situations and the justifications through the music of how it's interpreted as well.
What do you mean by that?
You know, just in, you know, in rap records alone, like there's so much that can be justified, that can be ingrained in you, the way a song hits you of violence, of assault, of demeaning of women, of demeaning of yourself, of demeaning of other black men. Like it's dependent upon how you interpret how the record plays. It can, if out of context, you'll naturally become dismissive or, I would say, what's the term? Desensitize to what hip hop is and what it can be.
I see. Okay. And I guess I'm going to use this to transition into a little bit of a different thing, but kind of on the subject of like representation and interpretation.
Yeah.
One of the questions that Raina wanted me to ask is about sort of the representation of Detroit in your eyes and then in people, in just other people's eyes, right? So I'm going to ask this. What single words would you use to describe Detroit? And then what words do you hear used to describe Detroit, like by other people? And what is the relationship between those words? Are they different? Like what you think of Detroit and what other people think of Detroit?
I think when I think of Detroit, I think it's a black Mecca. That's what I think of Detroit. But with being a black Mecca, almost every, you know, when you involve black people, every negative stereotype comes about. Poverty, disparity, lack of opportunity, lack of access, like everything that could be negative. It's that scene in the Malcolm X movie where he's like, you know, look up the word white. And then it's like, look up the word black. And then he's like, this, you know, and this, you know, the white is like innocent, null and void. You know, it's a great scene in the movie. And Denzel, damn, he deserved the Oscar for that. But who knows? He's an Oscar in my mind for that. So I don't care about the Oscars. But yeah, so it's that. And you can internalize that too, because just like with hip hop, if a message keeps getting beat over your head that like this is impoverished region and this is that and this is that, it's definitely going to impact how you engage with something. So we're impoverished based on the systematic assets that were never designed to be allocated and distributed amongst black people. But we're abundant and rich in creativity, in rhythm and style. Like the land you can have. I have 6 plots of land here. This is something that's rare. When I go to places like LA and I tell people that, it's like, 1 second, you got what? You know what I'm saying? Like, you for real? Like, what? How did you do that? You know? So like we have to be our own barometer of success, and we have to be able to we have to be able to reestablish what we feel. And when I say we, it's a collective we, because even as I'm speaking this for myself. We have to be able to reestablish what our goals are. Because, you know, the concept of a guy like what society holds up and exalts of a guy like Elon Musk, whose family fortune is tied to South African blood diamonds. but he's looked at as like a genius of cryptocurrency and design and stuff like that, where it's like, well, he's given he's given access to the resources that are already allocated for white men,
right,
and exploits that.
Right.
Whereas we have to start exploiting the resources allocated to black people, you know, and that's our creativity,
right,
you know, and we got to see the richness of that. Because it's like those assets were never designed for us to have. And if we keep looking at it through your lens, yes, we are impoverished. You know, one of the examples I always say is like, if to get a job, you didn't need a resume, but it was a dance contest. Be a lot of white people like, oh man, this don't make no sense. And it's like, that's what the job resume is to us. You know, it's like, this isn't culturally what's inclusive for us. And definitely a black face is not what is inclusive either. It needs to be culturally inclusive. What are the standards? Who decides what the character basis of these people are? A person you may label as a criminal may be a person that is abundantly fair, just, and a resource in our community. Whereas a person that is labeled as an asset to grander society may be the most oppressive entity in our community.
Right.
You know?
Right.
So like we have to redefine that. And like I say, as much as I'm saying the we, it's the I too. Cause these assets just in America, you know, and it's more than just America, in a world that still is many of the supply chain resources and the access is controlled through channels that are not with the representation of my people. So I still need to know how to use these assets, but use them in certain ways. You know, it's the, certain plants can kill and certain plants can heal. And some of those healing plants can kill you if you get too much of it. So we have to be just as smart and start seeing these labels of how Detroit is, and just even know the characterization of how these people look at these labels in the city of Detroit and why these labels exist, and know that, okay, that's in their tool bag, but this is what's in my tool bag, and I'm abundant in that. My people know I'm abundant in that. My character speaks to that. The community embraces me for that. This is what we bring to the table, and we ain't even necessarily trying to play your game with your rules, because your game with your rules, I'll always lose.
Right.
You know?
That's all of that is reminding me of a lot of like what seems to be at the core of Detroit is different.
Thank you.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
Where it's like, go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, it's just, you know, expression. We need platforms for expression, and other people sometimes can deliver it. I don't want to say better, but they have their own spins, and they deserve that same platform too.
Right, right.
Mm-hmm.
And it seems like that platform is what is changing the rules, so that you're not playing, you know, by the powers that be, their rules, you know?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Oh my gosh. Yes. And I guess thinking about Detroit is different. You've done now how many interviews? Oh man,
a lot. I don't even know how many episodes it is, but it's a lot. It is a lot of Detroit is different content that does exist, but it's powerful content. I'm gonna keep going with it. You know, I love this, you know. Yeah.
Can you think of any of your most memorable moments doing stuff like this in interviews, or, you know, stuff that floats to the top of your head of stories of, like, you know, people that you've talked to during this time?
Like every interview, it's still back to my presence of mind and where I'm at and what's going on with me. But, you know, it's different times where it hits in a certain way where it's like, okay, I needed to hear what that discussion was. I believe it's an art form of conversation too. And that's what podcasting can be. And in those passes, sometimes it's like that art form creates something that's unique. So like early on, I think I hit the nail on the head with a lot of people, but I love my interview with attorney Todd Perkins. I love my interview with Henry Tyler, Thornetta Davis, and Gia Kai used to like come at the beginning of the year. She's always gonna be a person that like I can clear the air and have some discussions with. So it's so many, like it's hard to even go through it. My friend Stretch Money, you know, like
right,
so many. Sharea Ayers, who just came back for another time, like that was a cool discussion. You know, some of these snapshots in life are deep and dynamic and with breadth and depth that I'm amused. Like I have an inquisitive mind. Like I'm curious. So it's real. It's really me. Like it's rare that I can meet a person and think to myself, like, I have no interest in what this person is and what they are.
Right.
Even if I disagree with you, I'm fascinated by human behavior and thought process and critical thinking skills. So I do have some questions for you no matter what.
Right. And that curiosity definitely like comes through. Like I see that like at every level of like, you know, in your living room, you've got like a bazillion books of like a bazillion people and like records all over the walls and like photographs and people. And you're like surrounding yourself with, you know, the knowledge and the abundance that's within other people. And it's a cool thing to see.
Yeah, cool. And it even throws snapshots in time. Like so at one point in time it was more intentional and cool, but now it's like, okay, that's cool that I was there, you know, 5-6 years ago. So like it's that reference of like, this is that snapshot. Right.
Which brings us to the present, the snapshot, I guess, of now, which is a lot of studio. Let's talk about it. I don't know. What do you want the people to know about this? Why did you decide to do it? What do you hope it will do? How do you want them to get excited for this?
Well, I think we need to touch stuff. Virtual platforms, even though this is podcasting and a virtual platform, the in-person is still very important, an important dynamic, especially being that we lost a year, quote unquote, to COVID. Like, and even now, just moving forward, I don't know how in-person will happen, but in-person is very needed. We're socializing adds to a lot of those experiences in life that we do remember. It's what we cherish. As they say, you know, you ask most people on their deathbed what they remember. It's those experiences. It's being out, socializing with others. It's me in reference to others, as I believe that sometimes personalities and experiences become reflections of us. So, you know, we're all interconnected. I'm a part of you, you're a part of me, but together we start reflecting something different and it becomes real cool. You know what I'm saying? So in these moments of time, in that reflection, I wanted a lot of studio to bring that together. And this is the seed in the ground. I really don't know what to expect or what success looks like other than we're going to do it. We're podcasting. I'm introducing some people in my neighborhood to performance and podcasting about topics that I think are interesting. And I'm sure those discussions and podcasts will take on whole new looks as we open up the mic to the people to ask questions too. So what may start out talking about something like as simple as urban gardening, which will be the first a lot of studio discussion, may turn into best ways to store pot liquor for the winter. I don't know, because you know, sometimes conversations go there.
Right.
And when you try to force it back to what you think people need to hear, it just makes people check out more. Whereas when you ride the wave and just go with it, I think that connects people more.
Right. I think it does too. It's one of the things I'm trying to learn from you.
Thank you.
Is how to ride the wave.
Yeah.
What comes to the surface naturally. That's good. I mean, I think I'm wrapping up here.
Cool.
Am I allowed to ask you the classic Detroit is Different questions?
You can ask me all of those, because I don't know if I ever gave the answers for those, but yeah.
Okay.
I think, did Starla ask me? No, I can't remember.
All right, well, let's go for it. Let's go for it. Okay, so the first one I think is, what was your first car?
My grandma's Buick Century. It was 89. I got it in 2000. Was it 99? I got it in 99 because I remember that's the year Dr. Dre's Chronic 2001 dropped.
Okay.
It's called Chronic 2001 because Death Row made an album called Chronic 2000 to kind of siphon some sales from Dr. Dre at the time. But I got it then. My grandma gave it to me under the premise of like, I'll stop driving if he starts taking me to church. And that Buick Century, I called it the Ghetto Cruiser, the Ghetto Cruiser. It was the best gift ever. First place I went when I got it was to school, but it was a long ride to school, because when you go from transition from taking the bus to driving and pulling up, you're gonna slowly ride in.
Okay. What was the color?
It was gray. Gray.
Okay,
Yep.
nice.
Yep. Like a silver-ish. And definitely in 89, it was way flyer than when I had it in 99, but I don't care. 20 years old, or 10 years old, that 10-year-old car rode like, you know, I'll never probably have a better car experience because it was my first ride. And I went from, I remember I intentionally stopped taking the Dexter bus and I walked from Northwestern to my house in Russell Woods for like almost a month. It was like a personal strike or something, like my own, like I'm Gandhi or something. But so like a personal strike where I was like, I'm not taking the bus again until I get a car, you know, and I ended up with a car eventually. Because yes.
There you go. Okay. Question number 2. I actually don't, since I'm not from Detroit, I actually don't know like the music occasion for this. But okay. It's something about the last song you were playing.
Detroit fireworks, I say Woodward and Jefferson. If I was a DJ, what would I play? And I'm sure I probably did answer it, but right now I'm gonna answer it. I'm gonna answer it. Let's see what we gonna do. Dramatics, what you see is what you get. I think that is what I feel. Since my mom's passing, because she liked the Dramatics so much, I've played so much more of their music. Like it has a new meaning. The music itself from the Dramatics, and just, you know, in meeting Ron Banks and LJ Reynolds, you know, the Dramatics, I think they're like such a Detroit staple. And then just even that song, you know what I'm saying? You know, like it's what you see is what you get.
Right. There you go.
Yep.
Okay. Last question. Here we go. The Woodward Avenue question. If you could name it, Woodward Avenue, rename it after any Detroiter, who would you name it after?
Nah, I know I answered these questions before because I know I said Black Man, and Black Man's my guy. He's like just such an eclectic dude, but in this same world, I'm going to say, I'm going to say, just in honor of it, Republic of New Africa Way. You know, just so people can get hip to the game of what we was doing with the Republic of New Africa that started here in the city of Detroit.
There you go.
Yep.
Okay. Well, thank you.
Thank you.
That's all I have.
Detroit is Different is where you get information, artistry, history, music, and even comedy. Detroit is Different, a home for the culture of Detroit. Visit online at DetroitisDifferent.com today.